Thank you very much. I'm joined here by our Deputy Minister, Bhuti Manamela, and the Director Generals of the two departments, Konde for Higher Education and Training, and Mjwaka for Department of Science and Innovation. Thank you very much for your patience whilst we were
What about me? Because I'm fine.
gathering today. We, together with the Deputy Minister, met today with stakeholders in the post-school education and training sector. And that included Universities South Africa, which represents the Vice-Chancellors of our universities, the South African College Principals Organization, which represents our college principals, trade unions that are organizing in the sector, as well as student representatives representing the various SRCs in both our TVET colleges and universities. All the parties, I'm pleased to say, agreed to work together in solidarity and unity to tackle the pandemic of the coronavirus, COVID-19. Both the Department of Science and Innovation and the Department of Higher Education and Training have already started implementing measures to ensure that we respond effectively to this epidemic. In line with the President's announcements, we today were elaborating and agreeing on what we need to do as the sector. Just to remind ourselves, our post-schooling education and training system consists of about 2.5 million students. And the decisions, however, we were conscious that we were taking today will also somehow have implications for community education and training colleges, private higher education institutions, as well as private colleges, as well as other training colleges which are managed by our sister departments, like, for instance, nursing, agricultural, police, and traffic corps colleges. As reported yesterday, the Department of Higher Education and Training had already established a COVID-19 team comprising of Universities South Africa, representing the Vice-Chancellors, the South African College Principals Organization, the Department of Health, Higher Health, which is an initiative by our universities now extending into TVET colleges to deal with health matters and wellness matters affecting staff and students. All these had already come together to coordinate a sector response and collate institutional case management reports. The Department of Science and Innovation had already established a research team which is made up of the Medical Research Council, the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, and the HSRC to look at scientific research and interventions required to combat the pandemic. I must say also that the department is working with the National Institute for Communicable Diseases. These were the measures that we had already undertaken, or we have embarked upon prior to today's meeting. So at today's meeting then, we agreed on the following immediate measures with all the representatives, the key stakeholders in the sector, that all post-school institutions, education and training institutions, will be closed for early recess with effect from tomorrow, the 18th of March, and this includes the normal planned institutional breaks that we were going to be having. And these closures are mainly planned for the end of the week or the beginning of next week. And of course, some institutions have already made these decisions. Our plan, as things stand now, and what we agreed upon, is that these institutions, which mainly it's universities and the TVET colleges, are planning to return from this break on the 15th of April 2020. It's an extended break. This will be just after the Easter weekend. Of course, the exact modalities and even the dates for the reopening or the coming back from recess of our institutions will be based on the assessment of the cause of the virus. We also agreed that there will be institutional engagements and arrangements that will also include accommodation arrangements for students as well as leave arrangements for workers during this period. Of course, some of the institutional activities will continue during this period, such as postgraduate and research work. In other words, it's not a shutdown. It's an early recess for our institutions, which in the main means the suspension of academic activities and lectures, mainly for undergraduate and TVET colleges, of course, for diploma and certificate programs. However, we have agreed that the institutions will use this extended recess to identify and explore, amongst other things, digital and online methodologies for teaching and learning that may need to be put in place to support the academic program at a later stage. This may be particularly important for contact teaching in a range of programs at the majority of our colleges and universities.
All right, so that was the Minister of Higher Education, Dr. Blade Nzimande, talking about the various measures that have been discussed so far by various stakeholders to respond to the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic. And the following measures so far have been agreed by stakeholders. As he was saying, all post-school institutions will be closed from tomorrow. Some schools are already closed at this stage, but he says that certainly the 2 million plus students across the country affected, all post-school institutions will be closed, and this represents an extended break rather than a shutdown, and it's scheduled to reopen at soon after Easter and the 15th of April, but the Minister again saying that they will assess the situation at that time. But in the meantime, things like accommodation arrangements and leave issues for staff need to be managed. And he says again, reiterating that this period of time must be seen rather as an extended recess. And this will also be an opportunity to look at digital solutions going forward. We're hoping to go back there as soon as we can, but the Minister there briefing the media about the agreements and the measures taken, agreed to rather, by the various stakeholders. All right, so let's move on now to Pretoria, where all three campuses at the Northwest University will be closed from today until the 29th of March. This follows a call for tertiary institutions to take precautionary measures after President Cyril Ramaphosa declared the COVID-19 national disaster. Now, although students Tebego Pagedi and was there and filed this report.
Despite pending assignments and tests for most students, the Northwest University is not taking any chances. The institution has introduced strict measures in mitigation of the spread of the deadly coronavirus. While contact classes have been put on hold, students are still expected to submit their work online.
We took this decision based on really the numbers that we have. We've got a lot of students on campus. We also then considered the 100 number that the president spoke about, and to maintain that in a university is very difficult. And we have to now look at how we save the academic year and see how we can continue with our academic program. Hence, we went for an online to say, although we are using it anyway.
Student representatives have welcomed the decision to cancel all lectures.
Students are happy that the university decided to go on early recess because they were wondering, as per President's announcement, that the university is not taking any decision. But yesterday we have seen the university management taking a decision that they are taking an early recess.
But others have expressed mixed feelings about the closure of campuses.
I feel like we should not close the campus. We're going to different provinces. So as we come back, somebody might be affected and it's going to affect all of us here in Mafikeng. So I feel like we should just stay here. It's more safer here since the percentage of the virus here is still low.
In order to combat the spreading of coronavirus, all the institutions, all the public institutions, whereby there are more than 100 people gathering there, they must be shut down. That's what the president said. So we are just implementing what the president said. It is not something new.
The university has also cancelled graduation ceremonies scheduled for next month. Deborah Pakedi, SABC News, Mahikeng.
Right, so let's continue to explore some of the issues and various stakeholders that are involved in trying to help mitigate the issues around the pandemic. President Cyril Ramaphosa, you will remember on Sunday, addressed the country and emphasized the scale of the COVID-19 coronavirus and the speed at which it was now spreading. Well, the CRL Rights Commission, which has a mandate to promote and protect the rights of cultural and religious and linguistic communities, has said in a statement that it's noted the impact which the disease may have on communities. Well, we have in studio now in Pretoria, the CRL Rights Commission, Professor David Luka Musoma, who was at the meeting with COGTA Minister Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma. Thanks so much indeed for joining us, and welcome to the program.
And thank you so much, Mr. Nora.
All right, so tell us how the meeting went with the COGTA Minister.
Well, the meeting was very constructive and very pointed in terms of the issues that are necessary for us to focus on, especially in the areas such as weddings, which would encompass a number of people, burials, services in churches, and so forth and so forth. And of course, the issue was how is CRL responding to those. Our response is based on the protocol. When the president declared the state of national disaster, he did so to put a law that each and every South African, in the interest of preservation and protection of life, it is important that all of us must adhere and embrace this protocol. So hence the issue of focusing on, for example, as I indicated, some of the key events that are cultural, like initiation, is one area we looked at. And of course, in our meeting, we had a joint meeting with the House of Traditional Leaders. I think Nkosi Mahlangu will focus specifically on the issue of initiation. However, as Gauteng, we have in the past suspended initiation, and we believe that going forward, in the interest of preservation of life, it will not be impossible for communities to consult and come up with a proactive ways which may lead to some degree suspension of initiation. And of course, this is dependent entirely on the negotiations with communities. But as I say, the law is law. It must be adhered to, especially the protocol and those precautions that are stringent to be followed after. And the second issue has to do with the religious institution and the religious leaders. And we know that Easter is around the corner. And many institutions, religious institutions, traditional institutions, even the traditional healers, have their own activities on this particular day. So we are appealing to all religious leaders to heed the protocol of the president in declaring the state of national disaster. Because if we don't do so, we will lose a lot of life. And I do know that the preoccupation of the religious institution is to preserve life, is to protect life, is to promote life. And so it is in the spirit of compassion.
To ensure that, to support these institutions in the work that we are trying to do to ensure that we are able to effectively deal with the COVID-19 epidemic. Our role, by the way, as the ministry with these two departments, we are acutely aware that, is not only just limited to our sector, but we have to make a contribution to South African society as a whole through our own scientific and research initiatives and interventions that we are going to be taking. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. We are now getting to the second part of our briefing, where we'll allow you as members of the media to ask 30-second questions to the Minister. Please identify yourself, the media organization you represent,
Feel free
and the question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You want to come in now? The Deputy Minister wants to come in now. There's something that is important. Perhaps before we take
Let's allow the DM to speak first, then we'll follow with questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ishmael and to Minister. I think just 2 points. The first one is that we want to emphasize that there are private institutions. There are also public institutions like agricultural colleges, nursing colleges, police colleges, all of those being institutions of learning. And would really like to urge them to follow the guidelines and the agreements that we've reached with the different stakeholders today in terms of early recess. And secondly, we are also aware that the TVET college students were supposed to be sitting for their examinations from the 30th of March throughout into April. The task team that the Minister has mentioned, together with examinations and our TVET branch, will be looking at the examination dates that were set, reviewing those and making the necessary announcements in terms of when will the TVET colleges who were due to start their examination on the 30th of March, when will their examinations resume. So I think those students, the ones in the engineering studies, the NATED courses in the engineering studies, were supposed to be resuming their examinations. So they must just watch the space in terms of when they should be ready for examination. In the meantime, we really want to encourage them to prepare for examinations as though they were starting on the 30th of March. So it was just those 2 additions.
Thank you very much, DM. Okay, over to you, members of the media. I have noted your hand. Is there any other hand? No hand. Okay. You are next. The third person. We are just going to have this round of questions, ladies and gentlemen. Please do use the opportunity. I see you've got it. You are fine. You are good. Okay. In that order, please. Yes,
Minister, you touched a bit on arrangements for accommodations with regards to varsity students. with the early recess. Do you mind elaborating a bit on what the agreement is on the arrangement and also the leave with regards to the workers, so we can flesh it out a bit?
Okay.
From ENCA, I'm covered when question, but just if you can share with us, Minister, I know maybe the universities have briefed you in terms of cases. Are we still standing at 2? If I'm mistaken, there was 1 case at VETS and 1 at UCT, the staff member. Do you have any information or any update regarding the number of cases at institutions of higher learning right now as we speak? But also, did you have a buy-in from all the stakeholders? Is everyone happy? Is everyone on board? Thank you.
Okay.
My question was the same as Dr. Ramade.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right. Okay. Thank you for the questions. The reason why, by the way, we're leaving this issue of accommodation to individual institutions, it's been part of the practice, for instance, that individual institutions have got their own arrangements, especially for institution-owned accommodation, because our students are not only in those, they are also in private accommodation. The arrangement, I suppose they also negotiate with private providers where necessary. It's because if you notice, the situation is not the same in different institutions. Some institutions have decided to suspend lectures, contact lectures, but without closing the residences. And they are using online mechanisms while students are in their residential spaces. Others have closed the institutions and asked students actually to leave the accommodation that they have. So the reason why we're talking about these institutional arrangements is because it's precisely to allow institutions to do things in a manner that suits them. You may find some institutions may say, since undergrad is not going to be teaching, so they may leave, but postgraduate students may remain. So we didn't want to come with a one-size-fits-all, because students. There is also, by the way, a debate. I might as well raise this. On that, it's not a debate. I'll mention the debate later. Our point of departure, firstly, on what is to be done must be guided by the phase at which the pandemic is, or the epidemic. The phase at which, for instance, the epidemic is at the moment is what is normally regarded as your initial phase. So we must at all times seek to be guided by those realities, working together with the Department of Health, as to what does that mean. Because, for instance, also to say you're closing university or college residences at a wrong time may be counterproductive, such that it may be a phase, for instance, where it may be easier to actually handle the epidemic among students if they are nearby, if they are in institutions, given the fact that a lot of our institutions have got health facilities that are also able to better respond to the virus. But the debate is about precisely how best at this phase do you deal with the location of students. Is it maybe better to try and keep them, those who are in residences, as much as possible, or to advise that they should actually go home? We don't know how the virus is going to develop. It may also lead to an instance where we may say, evacuate everyone. So that is why then we are guided by both the various institutional arrangements as well as the cause of the virus. I hope that answers your question. Spamandla, I don't know now, because I've been sitting here since this morning, just before 10. Well, I've been in meetings since 7:30. The one thing that the Minister of Health told me is that, which they are checking, is that the infection at Wits might as well have been a hoax. It's no longer certain. I don't know what's the situation now. He was checking that increasingly it's looking like there was no infection. Part of the problem that we have, which also I think, by the way, the media itself needs to watch carefully, is who announces about that there's been infections or not. As government now, Minister of Health informed us they've decided that the case of which may have been a private health institution, which just announced that. Now we are saying as government, if we are to act together, no announcement must be made by anyone, including any private health institution, unless it has been checked with the Department of Health, especially with the National Institute of Communicable Diseases. As well as the situation at UCT is different, I am not aware of any further infections. There are rumors, but I don't want to talk about rumors because I don't want to be a generator of fake news by default. All I want to say is that we are consistently in touch. We are working together, actually. We are part of the command team that is led by the president, which is going to be meeting very regularly, 3 times a week or something. We are also in touch with the Department of Health. We also, as I have said, we're in the same team that is actually looking into this, so that at all times we are aware of what is happening.
Is everybody happy?
Thank you very much, Minister. Are there any further questions, ladies and gentlemen? Okay.
Oh, yes, sorry. Is everybody happy? Yes. Yes. How can I forget that? Everyone has agreed. Literally, all the stakeholders have agreed with what I have outlined here and the agreements that we have reached. Of course, as I have said, some things will have to be taken back to the institutions. Everybody has expressed commitment to work together. And we also underline the fact that we know that there are tensions that are there in the sector, and there may as well have been some disputes. Let's put those aside and save the lives of South Africans and place that as number one.
Did you ask about leave for workers? You can reply with that,
Yeah, leave for workers. Yeah, look, on leave for workers, we said that's normally the institutional arrangements, that when institutions go on recess, workers go on leave on the basis of their leave arrangements, which may or may not coincide, by the way, with the recess and so on. But the one thing that we emphasize is that we have to ensure the safety of both our students and staff as much as we can. It's very important. So that also, as the two departments, we are inevitably in the forefront in one way or the other because of the work that we do in dealing with this. And we also have to ensure, in order to ensure the safety of everybody, we also have got to ensure the safety of all our staff and students in all of our institutions and entities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. This brings us to the end of our media briefing. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Those who need hard copies of the statement.
All right, so we're going to leave that press briefing. How was the Minister of Higher Education and Training, Dr. Blade Nzimande? He was speaking to the media.
And also on our social media platforms and our websites of both the Departments of Higher Education and Training and the Department of GSI's Science and Innovation. Thank you.